Guest speaker is John Finnie. Let's put the glasses on. John joined the police in Leith in 1976. During his 30-year career, one of John's main roles within the police was a dog handler. However, over the last 14 years of John's service, he worked as a full-time elected official of the Scottish Police Federation before retiring in 2006. In 2007, John was elected as the SNP councillor with the Highland Council and was then elected as the leader of the 17-strong SNP council group. John resigned from the SNP, designating himself as independent after the October 2012 SNP conference, following its decision to reverse its policy on NATO membership. I'd like to put your hands together for John Finnie.
Well, more than time, Fiscal Matter, doing you have a great policy, have a shot on it. Good evening, I'm very pleased to be here in Fife tonight to discuss what's an opportunity. And I think it's a great opportunity, and I hope it's an opportunity you're going to grasp. Now, there's very few guarantees in this debate, but I want to talk, and maybe get a few negatives out of the way, talk about what we do know. We do know that if you vote no, I sincerely hope you don't, but if you vote no, that there's more austerity on the way. All the parties have committed to that. 60% of the cuts still to come. I was in the debate in Nairn on Saturday night. It was two-a-side, myself and my colleague Jean Urquhart, fellow independent MSP for the Highlands and Islands, and Mary Scanlon, who I work closely with, the Conservative MSP for the Highlands and Islands. And in relation to austerity, Mary said, I just see it as if you're paying your debts. Well, I have to tell you, the folk who were in touch with me about bedroom tax, the folk who were in touch with me about harassment at the job centre, they didn't incur that debt, and they shouldn't be having to pay back that debt. So that's something that there's an opportunity with independence to address, and that we make sure that people are answerable for their responsibilities, and more of that shortly. The Barnett formula was discussed last week with the Chief Secretary of Treasury by MP Dan Alexander. You've got to blame the boy who came in third against him, I think, sometimes, and he did get a resounding victory. Hopefully he'll not get one again. I imagine he's got a job lined up. Danny last week got not only confused about the figures in the professor from the London School of Economics paper about the startup costs, but he also got very confused about the Barnett formula. The Barnett formula, of course, is very important at the moment. Would be important if we wanted to take charge of our own affairs. But back to some of the things we do know with no. The Labour Party, it's a peculiar beast at the moment. I think it's depressed a lot of people who were former stalwart supporters of the Labour Party. Many people feel it's abandoned its roots, and certainly the John McLeans and Keir Hardys wouldn't recognise the market forces that seem to motivate the Labour Party of today. They've agreed, as you know, a welfare cap. You know that they've also agreed that they're going to mount an attack on people under 25. We also know that all the unionist parties are in favour of the New York Trident. 1.43 billion already spent on early design, 100 billion in total for an obscenity that we wouldn't use. An obscenity, a toy that gets people a place, gets the United Kingdom a place in the Security Council. That's what it's about. Every nation must assess the risks it faces to protect its territory and to protect its citizens. That obscenity. I think we should call it what it is. People talk about the term weapons of mass destruction. I prefer the term, excuse me, weapons of widespread, indiscriminate civilian slaughter, because that's what that is. It's an obscenity. And the idea that we have people starving in this country, the idea that we have people making a decision whether to switch the light on or the cooker on while we're expending that vile sum of money is an abomination. But that's what no vote gets you. That's what a no vote gets you. Douglas very eloquently touched on the local situation with jobs, and I would like to quote to you from Dave Moxon, Deputy General Secretary of the STUC, who talks about the direct indirect and induced civilian employment across Scotland from Trident. Less than 1,800. Less than 1,800. Significantly, Dave says, will be significantly worse off if Trident is continued, 85 million a year, and could place 3,000 public sector jobs at risk. So that's what you do get. But you also, as of last week, or was it the week before, we had the UKIP intervention in the European elections, and that has been a game changer in many respects. I know a lot of people are placing a lot of faith in the Labour Party that this is going to be the vehicle by which social justice is delivered. No, no, it's not. No, no, absolutely not. If you see, sorry, I'm between glasses and not glasses. It depends how far I hold it away I can get away with it. Ed Miliband said that in his Queen's speech today that there should have been an immigration bill to stop undercutting of wages, a make-work-pay bill. Now, he didn't say that to entertain audiences in Scotland. He didn't say that to influence in any way the quest that we should all have for social justice in Scotland. Out with Greater London, there are 140 seats in the southeast of England. Any party wishing to form the government of the United Kingdom has to win a majority of these seats. At the moment, the Labour Party has a handful of them. And they're certainly not going to win these seats over talking about social justice, universalism, free personal care and the like. So I have to say that, and it starts with phrases like British jobs for British workers. I don't know if Mr Brown's your MP, but it's him that came from. Alistair Darling, deeper and tougher than Thatcher, and shamefully, I think, and to great despair from a lot of traditional Labour supporters, Joanne Lamond's something for nothing statement. Now, there are issues. Universalism is a principle. You either agree with it or you don't. You either are for the survival of the fittest, or you want to take a view that there is such a thing as society and we all must work collectively for the common good. Health and safety cuts that have been affected, and David Cameron refers to health and safety legislation as the health and safety monster that must be slain. And the 25th anniversary of Piper Alpha, he does away with the offshore inspectorate and has it directed in other avenues. The trade union legislation, the Employment Tribunal. Employment Tribunal was supposed to be the forum where the layperson could take his case against his employer. Now fees, now penalties. I don't think we're going to see any reversal of that. And something that features at the moment, I'm in the Justice Committee, we're looking at court reform and civil courts. And one of the big issues in the STC are very keen that there's no reduction in the opportunity for people to be represented by counsel. And one of the main triggers for that is something that passed fairly unnoticed, and I'll read the section to you. Section 69 of the Enterprise and Regulatory Reform Act 2013, where an employee now has to prove the negligence on the part of their employer in the event of an injury. I don't think the Labour Party are crusading about a change for that. Blacklisting, an abhorrence that affected every community in Scotland, even small communities in the Highlands where people working away. I don't think they're going to deal with that. There is an opportunity. There is an opportunity to deal with some of these. The Cabinet Secretary for Justice has already said, and I've been in discussions with him about this particular aspect, because of the arithmetic of the Justice Committee, people are very keen to speak to me at the moment. And there is an opportunity to perhaps address that. East Coast line, Inverness and Aberdeen to London, has failed twice under private ownership. Twice under private ownership. It's been successfully run by the state. Now you and I might think, what a golden opportunity to harness that up to £1 billion profit to reinvest in communities. That's not how Mr Cameron sees it. It's going to be reprivatised next year. And again, I'm not hearing the Labour Party saying about that. So these opportunities, and transport's one where I think there are great opportunities. I would like to see a greater use of public transport. I don't win many friends in the Highlands by saying £3 billion to get everyone came in the Scottish from Inverness to purpose of obscene sum of money. I would like to see money spent on a nationalised rail service. And I came across a quote recently from, I think it was Venezuela, and they said, success will be established not when everyone has a car, but when millionaires use public transport. And I think that's where I would like to see us going. The trouble with the UK is, of course, that UK is run by and on behalf of elites. And I suspect it's very likely that there are any in here, but I'll do a wee checklist. The elites are the bankers. Well, actually, we're all bankers now, I think, because a few years ago I didn't own any banks, but I own 2 now. I haven't allowed it to change me in any way. You wouldn't know that we owned them, and if you were a small business, you would have great difficulty understanding that there was any public benefit coming from them. The bonuses are still being paid, champagne corks are still popping in the City of London. But the bankers, the generals, the arms dealers, the group that Douglas referred to, the public school boys, and I mean boys, these are the elites. Policies made for and on behalf of. Now, of course, Britain has great inequalities, huge inequalities, and it's a situation that I'm ashamed to even see the words, and this is no criticism of a country that has its own challenges, but life expectancy in some parts of Lanarkshire on a par with North Korea. What a damning indictment in all of us, in fact. I live in the centre of Inverness, and half a mile either side of my house, Merkinch, Lochardel, 14 years difference in life expectancy for a man. That's not any for a civilised society. But of course we do know that it's 130,000 millionaires with a tax break. Was it last year? £100,000 tax break. And reading some statistics, Oxfam, an excellent organisation that crusades for social justice, not only in Scotland, not only in the UK, not in Europe, but of course around the globe, a staggering 18.5 trillion US dollars in tax havens around the world. And if I tell you that a third of these are in US overseas dependencies and protectorates, again, that's not any community I want to be part of. And we do know that the much quoted statistic, 100 billionaires in sought world of poverty, 4 times over. There was a report came out last week about rural communities, and it's not necessarily understood that deprivation affects rural communities. It affects it and often can be aggravated by not only the geography but also the isolation sometimes. And the percentage of pensioners in fuel poverty in rural local authorities, the average is 59%. 75% of pensioners in Orkney live in fuel poverty. Good grief, the Flotta oil terminal is in Orkney. What sort of communities are? Now, these are not all issues that lie at the door of the London government. It is an attitudinal thing. The reality is there's a prospect for change if we take charge of our own affairs. I would like to see greater public ownership. I would like to see the rail network put into public ownership. We've had the franchise of the sleeper done last week there. It's not without criticisms, not least given the organisation that won the franchise, Serco, who until recently were banned from applying for who have an atrocious record with the trade unions. Ethical policies have been tried before, and it's to Robin Cook's eternal credit. Many in the room will perhaps remember when he tried the ethical defence policy. This was about the sale of jets to Indonesia. And I read recently a very interesting story about how policies can change. There's not too many changed by mass demonstrations in the street. This particular change of policy took place because someone walked along a corridor in Whitehall, opened the door and said, "You're not doing that." Closed the door and went away. And again, that's not the way that we should be transacting business in any level of democracy. We have the situation of the bedroom tax. It's now being addressed. But if we had the powers, we'd be doing that ourselves. And I have to tell you, MSPs like me would be getting strung up if we passed legislation like that at Holyrood, and quite rightly so. I think there's a place for it, you know, and I've had people take issue with me saying this, but, you know, it starts off as a policy to address the overheated private rental sector in the southeast of England, and there's a problem. There's a problem that could be replicated in Scotland with the central belt, if Scotland got independence, a problem in the Highlands with focus on Inverness. But 4 of the 5 jobs created in the UK in the last year have been created in the southeast of England. It was the Labour Party that put in place mechanisms to deal with the inflated private rental sector and the money that was going there. Now again, 2 years ago there was a change to the civil list for the Windsor family. And they own lots of houses. They've got lots of houses, lots and lots of empty bedrooms. I would like to see some punitive tax applied there. I don't want to be vindictive to one family, I know right in a family. But you know, again, if you look at that, they're now in for a cut of a percentage of the Crown Estates in profits, which are significant. The Crown Estates, who I have to tell you, just this afternoon when I left the Parliament, Stephen at Works when they said that we've got an apply from the Crown Estates. I've been in touch with them trying to get a meeting about a problem being faced by a community in Murrayshire. And we emailed, sent a couple of emails, we sent a letter, and nothing. So we sent them a recorded delivery letter, enclosing the letter in emails. And remarkably, they phoned this afternoon, and they want to come and see me next week. So that's positive. I think we've got to be positive. But how much different it would be if, rather than the benefit, or percentage of that benefit, going to the Westminster Treasury or going to the Windsor factory, if it was coming to the people of Scotland. Is this point I'm sincerely hoping that's not mine. This is funny, checking up the video. So I want to give you a few examples, and I'll move swiftly on because I appreciate the time taken up here. But look what has happened in the Scottish Parliament. Free personal care. Consensus across the chamber to deliver free personal care. Something that's taken the worry away from families and older people. Free prescriptions. A tax on sickness. What an absurdity. And compare that with elsewhere in these islands. You know, people were going up, and 16,500 was the cut-off point. People were going up to pharmacists with a script with 5 items on it and saying, I can't afford them, which 2 should I take? That's again no way for a civilised society today. You go to university in Scotland on the ability to learn, not the ability to pay, and again we can build on that. Douglas touched on a constitution, and a rights-based constitution. We need to move to that situation. The Constitution must be constructed in rooms like this, not in the Scottish Parliament, in rooms like this, in meetings like this. This is where it should be. It has to be for the people and by the people. And I'm on to the situation that I understand exists with the Mexican Constitution, where it's written in there that you can't wage a war of aggression. Now, I'm not for waging any wars, I have to tell you, but, and I've got a solution to how we address that. Social economic rights should be written in there, and Douglas talked about childcare, and childcare is absolutely crucial part of this debate, a very crucial part of the debate. When the Deputy First Minister refers to it as being infrastructure, it's like the buses. You know, you don't no bus service, you can't get your jobs, no childcare. It's absolutely fundamental. Now, I was asked to do a talk on Sunday about defence and foreign affairs, and I certainly don't set myself up as an expert in these, but given the reason I left the party of government was strongly connected with these, then you can understand that I wasn't short of things to say. And I said to people, you're going to be disappointed if you think you're going to come here and hear me talk about the number of tanks we need, the number of battleships we need, because what we need is talks. We don't need tanks, we need talks. The problems of the world doesn't come about by a dearth of tanks. The problems around the world come about from a dearth of talks. And that's the future I would like to see for Scotland. And Scotland's got a track record for this, I have to tell you. It was dear Margot that told me, and what a loss, and what a real loss that is. It was Margot that told me about the Edinburgh Conversations. These were discussions that took place and contributed to the end of the Cold War. They took place very low-key in Edinburgh, involving academics, military people. I would like to see that. 2003, in my own area in Craigellachie in Speyside, Angus Robertson hosted talks between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Georgia were involved in a hotel, and there's some interesting press coverage of that as well. That's the role I would like to see for Scotland. I want Scotland to be the 194th country of the world. I'm not interested in a Security Council place. This is toys for boys at the big table. And I have to say, do you know, and I don't mean this in any way coarsely, the nuclear weapons didn't stop the 9/11 attacks. The nuclear weapons didn't stop the attacks in the Soviet cinemas, the Moscow cinemas. Trident didn't stop the terrorist attacks. You assess the risk, and can I tell you, the risks are the same the world over for Moscow. They are about continuity of energy. For us, it's not about continuity of water. Continuity of energy, cyber attack, civil disorder, terrorism, lone wolf, way down the line if there's any territorial threat. So I would like to see all our policies formed on the basis that they're in the exclusive interests of our citizens and based on sound evidence, no more dodgy dossiers. I would want to see democratic accountability meeting the highest moral and legal criteria with clear political accountability at each stage. And I want a clear understanding of the basis of decisions and, importantly, political, and I stress political and judicial oversight of surveillance. I want to understand that there should be clear terms of engagement with other bodies and respect for human rights, for UN and labour and international laws. And the rights-based approach. You know, there's been good groundwork done already. Hamza Yousafzai, who deals with foreign affairs, his engagement has been very positive and warmly welcome. The situation of the Scottish Government supporting the UN recognition for Palestine has been very positive. There's an awful lot that can be built on there. It's a very small world, and, excuse me, the world over, we've all far more in common than we have difference. We all have the need for shelter, food, love, affection, and community. And, you know, we need to really concentrate on that. Overseas aid would be an important part of an independent Scotland, and in a rare moment of praise for the UK government, well done David Cameron for at least maintaining the overseas aid, albeit there's a bit of creative accountancy around it. Climate justice and climate challenge is a terrible thing that we're facing, but I would like to see Scotland involved in conflict resolution, and I would like to see more conversations. And finally, I just want to, a couple of comments. I speak at quite a lot of meetings, and Sandra Webster, the co-convener of the Scottish Socialist Party, she said something once that really struck with me, and that was, she said, isn't it disappointing that around the world, for many folk, their first contact with someone from Scotland is that they're in a camouflage uniform and with a weapon with them. And wouldn't it be great if henceforth their contact, if they had to have someone aboard there, they had a rucksack with some humanitarian aid in them. That's the difference, I think, with that. You're not going to have that with the United Kingdom. They're still post-empire, they're still posturing, as we've seen with Mr. Putin. You know, I'll condemn anyone, I'll condemn violence from any quarter, I'll condemn disregard for international law. But of course we hear a lot from David Cameron about Putin. Suddenly the G8 have lost their mate, it's a G7 now. But they're still taking the dirty money from Russia, it's still pouring into the City of London. So I'm going to leave you with words from Bashir Ahmed. Bashir Ahmed was the first Scottish Asian MSP, and he came to Scotland, and he was very impressed with the warm welcome, and I hope that's a welcome that would continue for people in Scotland. And he said, and I think it's very fitting, he says, it's not where we're from that matters, it's where we're going together. And I think this independence referendum gives us all an opportunity to go somewhere better. And I hope you'll take that opportunity, and I hope you vote yes.